Okay.
Is it recording? Start.
Yes, it is. I'm trying to get into the character of Lance.
Welcome to the Horror Returns. I'm from Texas.
Lance?
There we go. Yes, I'm Lance. I'm from Texas. And welcome to the Horror Returns. Oh, wait a minute. That's not Lance. It's me, Bede and Marcey Join. From the Super Network and Me vs. the Living Dead, I'm taking over this episode of the Horror Returns this week, or at least me and my super podcast co-host, Super Marcey.
Damn straight.
Exactly. But yes,
the Super Network takes over.
Exactly. For some bizarre reason, Lance, who's not here for this episode due to some family stuff, so I've taken over the episode, or at least he wanted me to. But yes, we're here, and of course, the actual real co-hosts of this show are Brian and Phil. Hello, guys. How's it going?
Thank you for having us on.
Yeah,
it must feel
Always
weird being guests. I guess it feels weird being guests on your own podcast.
There's always a first time for everything, so.
Exactly.
It's not like there's ever really a real theme to these things, so we just kind of roll with it.
Exactly. And of course, as I stated before, with us, of course, is Super Marcey from the Super Network. Hello, Marcey. How are you?
Hello. Yes, I'm the most important one because I'm back on the Horror Returns.
Indeed. I'm sort of trying to remember the last time. Actually, you know what? I do remember the last time you and I were on an episode together, Marcey. That was for the double feature of Dead Riggers and Crimes of the Future.
That was a while ago. I did do an episode with Batch, which was a full moon one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember, what did we watch? Dollman and Puppet Master, and I had Batch with me from one of our other shows.
And I did the previous full moon episode last week.
Yeah.
We love our full moon.
Yes, exactly. And
far worse than the original Puppet Master.
Yes. But that's not going to stop me from watching the other films in the series. So
it's not stopping me from playing the Puppet Master game either.
That is true. Which we will have to play at some point. But we'll get that out of the way. Of course, this is the section of the show which is Cools of the Week. Who would like to go first? I'm picking on you, Phil.
Yeah, I'll jump in because mine are always shitty anyway, and I haven't watched anything. But I have been playing this MLB The Show 23, and I'm so stuck on it. I get very one-track minded, and so I've been playing the shit out of this game. But I ended up on the Astros, and we're on our way to the World Series for 2024, actually.
Steve Carlson's favorite team.
Yeah, that's what I hear. That's what he told me.
Allegedly,
yeah.
as we say on the Tubi Tuesdays podcast.
And yeah, my kid ended up making All-Stars, so we're
nice.
in practice for that every day, and it's a good time.
Nice. Well, congrats with that.
Thank
you. And Marcey, what is your cool of the week, or not so cool of the week?
No, I'll have a call of the week. I actually forgot this was a thing, so I've had to scramble and think of what it could be.
That's usually where I'm at every week.
Usually. All right. I'm gonna give it to Renfield because we watched that recently, and I thought it was a very fucking awesome movie that I related to on a lot of levels. I mean, look, it's Nicolas Cage's Dracula, so I can't complain at all. But it was very much my kind of movie, so I had a great damn time with it.
Yeah, 100% better than I expected it to be.
Oh yeah, it went places, and it was it was quite a wild ride. But I'm glad things were very positive at the end.
Yes. And what about you, Brian? Do you have a whole list of stuff to give us?
Per usual, yeah.
Yes.
Well, we're going to segue from Renfield to another Nicolas Cage movie I actually checked out last night. Nicolas Cage's Western, The Old Way.
Ooh.
Never seen it.
I kind of had fun with it. Just there's nothing this man can't do. And playing an old grizzled former, I think he was kind of like a bounty hunter that got married and kind of changed over and made a new life for himself. And of course, situations happen and he has to get revenge. And it has a lot of if you don't know the actors' names, it's a lot of I've seen that person before. The most notable one was Clint Howard's one of the henchmen of the bad guy.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, I had a good time. It was a decent Western. One that wasn't that I was I was kind of hoping it was gonna be was Oregon Trail.
You guys is that out?
Oh, yes. The Oregon Trail.
I was disappointed. It's shot well, it's acted well, it's kind of dull. And it's not what I thought the movie was going to be. I thought it was going to be the hardships of them going through this trail. There are some gruesome moments in it, but it just there wasn't no dysentery. It's kind of disappointing.
There's no dysentery. It's not like the game. What is this bullshit?
Yeah, so that one was kind of a letdown. Another letdown. Well, it wasn't really a letdown. I haven't really heard of this movie. Was I think it's fairly new to Netflix. It's called White Noise, starring what's his name? Kylo Ren.
Adam Driver.
Adam Driver.
Yeah. I couldn't get the humor of this movie. It reminded me of that other Adam Driver movie, The Dead Don't Die.
Yeah, he does some weird stuff.
It's kind of
another movie called White Noise.
Yeah, I think it's a Michael Keaton.
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh yeah, I did see that Michael Keaton one.
So yeah, watch the Michael Keaton one. Don't watch the Adam Driver one.
Yeah, I did see that one as well. I kind of was like on it, to be honest. I didn't know what was going on half the time during that movie.
Yeah, it took me two tries to finish it because halfway through I just turned it off because I wasn't getting the humor. I understand what was going on in the movie, but just I don't know. It just
Sometimes they try to be funny by like being quirky, and it doesn't always work.
Yeah. But my cool week is a movie that Lance didn't really like that much, and that was John Wick Chapter 4.
Oh, haven't seen it yet.
Hell yeah.
I thought it was great.
I had so much fun with it. Yes, it is almost 3 hours, but there's so much action packed in this movie. I didn't not look at the time and was like, when is this movie going to be over? So many cameos. Donnie Yen steals it.
So good.
I wouldn't mind seeing a spin-off movie of him. I forget the actor's name, but the character that played, I think they just called him Nobody. He was the one that had the dog this time.
Yep.
I would kind of like to see something more of his backstory because, I mean, you don't really get anything about him other than he just calls himself Nobody. And, I'm a little disappointed that now they're trying to squeeze out a fifth movie because I thought it kind of ended nicely.
It felt like a good ending, but I guess we'll see what they end up doing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know what Lance was talking about. He said it was too ridiculous and it was too much world building, and I'm like, that's what you got in the first 3 movies. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah.
And also, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say John Wick's. It was a good time. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, it is an awesome movie, and I also love 2 other things about it. Scott Adkins in a fat suit. He was pretty memorable.
Oh my god, he was like, I can't even describe it. It was something else.
Yes, and also it has probably one of the greatest action set pieces I've seen in a movie in a while. It's the staircase scene. That whole sequence is amazing.
Just when you think he can't fall down any more stairs.
Yeah,
even a fuckload more stairs.
Even the sequence with the nunchucks. I mean, it was
Oh, so
you've
good.
seen many scenes with people using nunchucks, but it just seemed like there wasn't nothing flashy about it. Every use for the nunchuck was practical, and just even when he wasn't using it, he just flip it around his neck and just hold it there until he needed it again. And
that's the John Wick movies have been very practical as far as fighting goes. It's not a bunch of just dancing. It's like actual useful fighting stuff.
If there was a little bit of a letdown, I probably would have wanted to see more between Keanu Reeves and Bill Skarsgård at the end. Just I don't. I mean, I like how it ended, but I just would have seen some sort of fight scene between them two.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'll watch John Wick until. Yeah, I'll watch John Wick until The Rock shows up and starts flying cars into space.
Definitely. That's what's going to happen in part 5. I guarantee it.
John Wick in space.
John Wick in Fast X2.
Yes.
What'd you check out this week, Bede?
Well, speaking of The Rock in space, which is a good segue. I did check out one of my calls of the week. I did see Fast X, which is the latest. I really enjoyed it a lot, but then again, I do enjoy the Fast and Furious films, despite what Lance says, and I can say that because he's not here.
I still don't know why he went to see that movie.
Well, I mean, you're getting exactly what you want from the Fast and Furious franchise in this film. Like, the action is great. Yeah, the story doesn't make entirely 100% sense, but it's really cool kind of seeing the cast and all together, and also the newest additions that they added to it as well. And also, I will say that Jason Momoa is absolutely fantastic as the villain. He's probably the best villain that the series has had so far. He's very over the top. He's very cartoonish, but he really has a sinister side to him. So I could definitely see how some people have compared his performance to the Joker, because it has a lot of Joker vibes to it.
Okay.
A lot. And it's kind of worth it just to see his performance. And of course, like, it actually adds a bit more stakes to the story as well. So I'll be kind of curious to see what's going to happen in the next one. So, but then I hear that there's possibility there's going to be 2 other movies now. Gotcha. But no, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was a good time. And I guess my other call of the week is, given that we're talking about the 2 films we're talking about today, which are Psycho 3 and Psycho 4, The Beginning, I decided to go back and rewatch Psycho 2 because I hadn't seen that in a while. And that's definitely such a great and underrated sequel, that one.
That movie had no right to be as good as it was, and that's it.
Yep, exactly. And also, it's kind of I guess you could say it's like one of the first legacy sequels in a way, when you kind of think about it. But I guess other than that, those are kind of my calls for the weeks. No, not so cool of the weeks. I mean, not so cool picks this week from me, but we'll move right along to the next segment, which is horror headlines. Brian, what headlines are out there on the internet at the moment?
Not many again this week. Another slow week for horror news. I think we'll start out with we're about to get Insidious 5. I believe it's called Insidious: The Red Door. They seem to be really high on that one, that they've already greenlit I guess a spin-off movie titled Thread: An Insidious Tale. And rumor is they're getting Mandy Moore and Kumail Nanjiani to star in that one.
Okay. Well, I guess I guess sort of thinking about it, I guess that based on what they've seen so far of the new one, that they think, there's a lot of potential, hence they're like amping up the marketing for it. And now we're getting a spin-off film. I'm kind of curious, especially with Kumail Nanjiani and Mandy Moore being part of the cast.
I always liked Mandy Moore. I don't know. I didn't think she's that bad of an actress.
What was the last thing she's done? She does like a lot of. She doesn't do any like big budget type movies. It's like smaller indie stuff or TV.
Yeah, I think
mostly she did a shark movie or something at one point.
Yeah,
I think everybody's done a shark movie.
I know.
Yeah, I think she did 47 meters down. I think she was in that movie.
The good one.
But I think, but I think the last few years, I think she's mainly been working on This Is Us, the TV show. Yeah. That was kind of like what she's been doing recently. So now that's finished, and now she's getting back to the movies.
Okay. The boys star Jack Quaid, and of course we last seen him in what was it, Scream 5. He is set to star in a new sci-fi thriller from the same team that made Barbarian, called Companion.
Okay.
You guys think Jack Quaid could lead a movie?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think he hasn't. I don't think he's hit his peak yet, and he's done some really good stuff.
He definitely reminds me.
He's got a bright future.
Oh yeah, and he reminds me of his dad way too much. Yeah, like especially when he smiles, it's like I see Dennis Quaid right there. But I think he's definitely got the charisma and the likability, so I could definitely see him going further into leading role territory.
Yeah, I think so.
Let's see. There's not a lot of news. Glenn Danzig's film Death Rider and the House of Vampires, he seeks distribution. I guess he submitted it for Cannes Film Festival.
Yes.
So,
he's like, fucking Rob Zombie's making films. I can't make films.
Has anybody seen this movie? I know it got a small release like 2 or 3 years ago.
No, I've been kind of anxiously wanting to watch it. I mean, his first film, Veronica, is terrible, but it's kind of fascinating at the same time. So I kind of want to watch this one, mainly because that is true. But mainly because he actually got real actors this time around.
Veronica was so bad. I can't believe it, but I got tired of seeing boobs after a while. It just was so boring.
That's the thing. I think it's weird about this film, like you said, Brian. It came out 2 years ago, was released like a limited release, was never released like on DVD or anywhere else, and now he's looking for distribution for it. So I don't know what's going on. People saw the movie that
it sucks. Yeah.
I was gonna say people saw it and it was crap. Probably.
Yes, but I will watch it because our man Marcy Devon Sawa is the lead in that movie.
I mean, gotta watch anything with the man, Hunter Dunbar.
Exactly.
Still gotta record our little skit for that. For the remake.
Yeah, I think we'll have to find a day to sit down and record that one all of us together.
Yeah,
it'll happen.
When the schedule's
it's gonna happen.
Online, finally.
It ought to be a terrible train wreck.
Exactly.
That's what we want in life.
Yeah, I'm looking here. There's just really nothing. I mean, Ron Perlman and Rosanna Arquette are going to be in a new horror thriller called Succubus.
Okay.
Yeah.
We sure that's not a movie about me?
Probably not the actors I'd pick to put in that movie, but okay.
Marcus Dunstan's slasher All My Friends Are Dead, starring Jojo Siwa, is now filming.
Nice.
Is she like an actor too?
I don't know. I just remember that she was the YouTube sensation.
Yeah, she's like the little kid one, right?
Yeah, that my daughter was into for like a week. And then that was it.
She's really famous for being famous.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything. There was an Alien versus Predator anime series filmed with 10 episodes that Disney had it in its vault for a while that nobody knew about.
And it's staying there.
You don't think it'll ever be released?
Well, I mean, given like a lot of the controversy
given
with
what
Disney
they're
at the
doing,
moment,
yeah,
Yeah.
given with what they're doing right now, it's like really bad.
yeah,
They're shelving a lot of original content, like not available anywhere now.
Mm.
I don't know. I feel like the industry is in kind of a mess.
yeah.
And
Yeah, it sounds like they're almost
know.
doing it for like accounting purposes or something instead of releasing.
Yeah,
I don't understand it.
yeah.
They're probably also kind of a residual thing because, there's the writer's strike going on at the moment. So maybe it might have something to do with that too. So I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, but I mean, who would have thought, like in this day and age, like piracy is what's saving cinema right now. But
Yeah.
If it wasn't for people pirating things, there are things that would be just completely lost.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if we were taught anything from an era where none of us were alive, in the silent era of just non-film preservation, it's so important.
Exactly.
It should not be a thing. Release everything at least on physical media.
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
Yeah, if it's already filmed, at least sell it.
Yeah. Or some company picks it up and then releases it on DVD and Blu-ray.
Or just send it to Tubi.
Yes.
I mean, everything should
give
be
it to
on
the
Tubi.
guy behind Kroger's. He sells all kinds of VHS shit still.
Definitely.
And lastly, I guess we'll finish with from the makers of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, Bambi the Reckoning horror film secures distribution in multiple territories. So this is also happening.
But why? Nobody's asked for Winnie the Pooh, whatever the hell that was. I haven't seen it, but I've heard many things, and I'm like, no. And now you want to turn Bambi into something. Like, okay, I can understand the appeal, but just no. I don't know.
Well, the director doesn't plan on stopping there. He wants to do something with the Thor name as a horror movie. And
smashing heads with hammers.
Peter Pan. He wanted to do something with that one too.
Look, I'll give you this. Peter Pan has potential to be horrific, and if anybody has read Alan Moore's Lost Girls, you'll definitely understand how that could be. But that's all I'll say on
that. Yeah, I mean, he's stealing kids at night. Peter Pan the pedophile? Huh?
Yes.
He's Captain Hook the pedophile.
Hey. What if Captain Hook's the good guy in this one?
Good point. Good point. Although I got to say, though, I think if they're going to cast anyone for Bambi the Reckoning, it needs to be The Rock, since he's already played Bambi in a SNL sketch going after revenge.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm curious to how they're going to do it. Is it going to be like, just a dude with a deer head on? Or
I hope so.
That's kind of the Winnie the Pooh shtick.
I mean, it's from the same team, so
yeah, it's very likely. I think we'll see Bambi just go on this like crazy revenge tale to get the hunter that killed its mom. I mean,
if he's not wearing a fucking Rambo bandana by the end of it and mowing people down, I don't want to see it.
It could be like a set in the same universe as John Wick.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
All right, that is the news.
Indeed, and we'll move along to the next segment of the show, which of course is, and Marcy, are you ready to go down to the trailer park?
I never usually am, but
I'll fill up on meth and coke, thanks.
Exactly. So yes, it's trailer park time, and Brian, what's our trailer for this week?
Keeping up with the lack of news, we only have one trailer, and that is The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. Quick synopsis. It tells the story of a teenage anti-hero, Vakara, who is on a desperate quest to cure death. And this stars, sorry about the puppy barking in the background, got a new puppy. Leia DeLeon Hayes, Chad L. Coleman, Denzel Whitaker, and a guy for a quick second I thought was John Travolta, but is Tim Perez Ross. His IMDb picture is very John Travolta. This is directed and written by Bomani J. Story. So, Marcy, you did not watch it?
I did not because I forgot.
Okay, it's okay. I'm gonna throw it to Bede.
Yeah, I actually really dug the trailer a lot. Like, it's an interesting, different take on the Frankenstein story. Well, obviously, that's what the film is based on. But I'm very curious to see how this one turns out. It actually looks really good. Like, it's got good atmosphere. The acting seems to be pretty good, and also their sort of take on the actual Frankenstein monster looks really cool too. So yeah, I'm definitely down for checking out this one. And also, I have an affinity for the Frankenstein story, so I'll watch any version that that is out there on this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I love the take on Frankenstein, a modern day take on it. It looks really well made. The acting looks pretty good, and you even throw in a little creepy kid that the little young girl that seems to befriend the monster, which wanted to see how that story plays out, because it seemed like everybody knew each other in this neighborhood, but she doesn't recognize the older girl's brother is the monster. So kind of want to see how that story plays out. So yeah, I'm all in for this one.
Yeah,
nice.
I mean, despite the obviously racial name to the movie, because I kind of rolled my eyes initially, I didn't get that at all from the trailer. It looks like it's going to be really good, and it looks like a pretty good story, and the actors just happen to be black, which is totally cool.
Nice. And also, I think it's coming to Shudder later this year. I think is it dropping limited release next month, but then coming to Shudder later in the year?
Yeah, I believe you're correct. I can't find the exact release date. It did get a small, I'm assuming, like festival run in March. It did get picked up by Shudder, so I think we'll get a small theater release here soon, and then before the end of the year, it'll be on Shudder.
Yep. Awesome.
It looks really good. I'm excited about this one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that is the trailer. Only trailer. Sorry, guys. Nothing's coming out. I think we're in that time when no news really comes out before like Comic-Con or anything like that.
Oh yeah.
You have the summer blockbusters about to hit.
Yeah,
All
exactly,
right.
Exactly. But listener feedback, Phil.
Yeah, we'll move on to some listener feedback. This week we shine the podcast spotlight on Plug It Up. Plug It Up is a horror movie podcast about the monstrous feminine. Host Caitlin Grant and her funny guests look at the monstrous feminine in all its forms, including monstrous menstruation. Okay. Like Carrie and Ginger Snaps. Monstrous motherhood, like Rosemary's Baby and The Omen. Those seem more like monstrous babies, but I get it. Femme fatales like Jennifer's Body and The Love Witch. Black widows like Dolores Claiborne. And body horror in women like Teeth and Raw. Treacherous friendships between women like The Craft. Women battling horror like You're Next. And women who are themselves horrific like Gone Girl. Although this show focuses on the experiences and portrayal of women in horror, it's a gender inclusive space, and the discussion is open to people of all gender identities and presentations. It's an explicitly intersectional, feminist, trans inclusive podcast from horror fans. So Plug It Up is a bloody good horror production. Check it out. And
that sounds. Yeah, I have to give that one a listen because I do love the name of the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, as a Carrie fan, yeah, great name. But yeah, it sounds really good. So I'll have to check them out.
Plug it up.
Plug it up, bitches.
Beyond the Void Horror Podcast says, thanks for sharing. Thank you. Regarding the podcast that wouldn't die, Cameron Sullivan says, love you all. We love you too. Regarding the Invisible Man, Ernest Rivas says, good one. Zim Vader says, the Invisible Man house is near my house.
Oh, nice.
How do you know? Is it invisible?
Well, because I think it's because like the film was filmed in Sydney, Australia. That's probably why.
Yeah. He's not even in Sydney. It's just, hey, I'm in Australia. That counts. Regarding the haunting of Hellhole Mine, David Day says, "Oh, how Sizemore has fallen."
Well, I hate to say this, but I don't think it's going to be falling anymore. So there you go.
Yeah.
Oh.
R.I.P. R.I.P.
Regarding a picture of a cold one in the old Horror Returns koozie, Stephen Loblad says, "Welp." And Patrick Lear says, "Old school. Since Lance isn't here, we can't talk shit about him. I mean, how hard is it to get to the post office? Come on, man."
Yeah, I think it's safe to say he still hasn't made it.
I doubt it. He's got
I find it hilarious that the post office is literally just next door to his house.
I think he lives at the post office.
It is.
He's just lazy.
Yeah, Lance, where's our koozies? Marcy and I are waiting for ours.
I know, right? Brandon Starochi says, "Hello, we have a horror comic that has a live Kickstarter. We're hoping to come on your show and talk about it. Please let us know." Well, shit. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, email us.
Let anybody on. Look at who we got today. And the official winner for last week's poll, which film best describes motherhood, as expected in the final tally, the Babadook ran away with it. Well, that makes sense. Better than Psycho. I hope that doesn't describe a whole lot of motherhoods. Our show intro and all the new logos come from Steve Carlton from The Geeks. And be on the lookout for some more great stuff from him. Of course, our original skull artwork, like we mentioned in the koozies before, came from Natsulani. So check her out on Instagram. And please consider becoming a Patreon patron. We'll let you pick the movies for a future show at any amount, and for $5 or more a month, also pick the commentary for a future bonus show. Except right now, $1. Give us $1, you pick commentary for a future bonus show, and come on and talk about it.
I'm waiting for my invitation.
Oh, but let's roll on to our featured attractions. We're going to do our second in a fan-chosen retrospective for the series Psycho. So we're doing Psycho 3 and 4. We'll, of course, start with Psycho 3 from 1986. Norman Bates falls in love with a fallen nun who stays at the Bates Motel alongside a drifter and a curious reporter. Meanwhile, Mother is still watching. Director is Anthony Perkins. Oh, I didn't know that. Who also went on to direct Lucky Stiff, and his directing career pretty much ended there. Writer is Charles Edward Pogue, also known for Dragonheart and the Cronenberg remake of The Fly. That was a great one. It was Anthony Perkins' idea to use the unique scene transitions, like the light under a door that's actually a knife, and the scene where Norman leaves the hospital and closes the door and finds himself in his mother's room. And Anthony Perkins originally suggested that the film be shot in black and white as an homage to the original, but Universal opposed it. They were like, yeah, it's not 1960 anymore. So, vetoed that one. Marcy, what'd you think about Psycho 3?
Yeah, so all right. Okay. Where does one start? So kind of a backstory. I guess for the past, I don't know, 10 years or so, like I've been championing that while Psycho is a absolute classic. I did discuss that movie with you guys a few years ago, I believe.
Yeah, masterpiece.
So yeah, I was on an episode where we discussed that. It's a masterpiece of cinema, but I've been one of those people who are like, the sequels to Psycho are actually really good. There's something to each and every one of them. I think Psycho 2 is probably the strongest of them all. It's a great film, but I think there's definitely a lot with 3 and 4. So it was great to rewatch 3 and 4 in prep for this podcast. And I think it's very interesting that we get Anthony Perkins directing a Psycho film. So it's I guess it's got a bit more of him in it. Because there are definitely ways you could sort of continue the story, and as they did with 2, like he'd been institutionalized for 20 years or so, and it's kind of like, how does somebody who went through all of that get back into society? So at this point, he's kind of a little messed up after what happened in 2, but we see that he's, there's always this kind of battle within him against that, I guess, ghost of mother. And I think this one goes into some interesting places. Jeff Fahey's Duke is such a disgusting character. I like Jeff Fahey's like a great actor. He was very, very handsome in the film, but you just freaking hate him. He's so loathsome, and it's so like with each film, like it's difficult not to have some kind of sympathy for Norman. And it is kind of interesting how it does tell, I guess, Norman kind of falling for somebody, but having all these other like feelings, because we have seen through the telling of these films that there's a lot of repression going on, and the fight within, which I think this film captured very well. I don't feel like it's a throwaway sequel at all. I think it adds quite a bit to, I guess, the Psycho legacy of everything. I feel like I'm rambling, so I'll stop for now.
All right, Bede, what'd you think?
No, I think as I've stated before, like Psycho 2 is a great sequel. Like, I don't think Psycho 3 is as good as Part 2, but it's still a pretty solid one. And compared to the previous one, this one definitely goes for more of that slasher vibe.
And it's 100% more of a slasher type of film.
Oh, yeah, but it still has that psychological element to it as well. Yeah. Like you say, Marcy, we gotta, with each progressing film in this franchise, we learn more about Norman and actually feel a lot of empathy towards him as a character.
Yeah, you definitely feel a lot of sympathy, even if you kind of don't want to see Norman kill anybody anymore or do anything bad, because you kind of feel for him, and he's had this tough life, and you probably shouldn't be feeling sorry for somebody who's murdered people. But they definitely make it very intricate with that. So.
Oh, for sure. And I think from a filmmaking standpoint, I think Anthony Perkins did a great job with his direction of this film. I think visually it looks fantastic, and I love the fact that it almost kind of has a bit of a giallo vibe to it with a lot of the shots and also the use of color in it. And like we were saying in the trivia before, like the scene transitions are really cool. I really love the shot where you think it's a light coming under a door, but then it zooms out and it's actually just light reflecting off a knife. And I thought that was such a cool, interesting shot. And I think the supporting cast are all pretty solid. I think Diana Scarwood, who plays the nun Maureen, who's kind of suffering from a crisis of faith in this film, I think she's really great in the film as well. And you definitely feel for her character and why she would kind of latch on to Norman, especially because when Norman goes into wanting to kill her at one point, he discovers that she's trying to commit suicide and saves her. So again, it kind of brings up the whole confliction that Norman kind of feels throughout the film. But and also there's some pretty cool like little homages to the original Psycho as well, with certain shots or like scenes kind of replicating those moments. But I would say of the sequels, it's probably my least favorite, but it's still a pretty solid, enjoyable sequel overall.
That's fair. Brian?
Yeah, I said it before and I'll say it again. I think the Psycho franchise is underrated, and I don't think about it now. Bede, I do agree with you. This is probably, if I had to rank them, this would be at the bottom, but not because it's a bad movie. I just like the other three more.
Yeah.
I liked the way Anthony Perkins portrayed Norman Bates. Marcy, you were talking about feeling sympathetic for him. I really didn't want him. I wanted good things to happen for Norman. I wanted him to kill anybody, and then Maureen shows up, and then Dwayne Duke shows up, and Jeff Fahey did an excellent job portraying Duke, because when you meet him, you kind of already know what kind of guy he is, and then when he tries to take advantage of Maureen and then throws her out in the rain and tells her you could have been coming instead of going, I'm like, okay, we know what kind of guy he could be, and I thought he did a great job at it. I think where it kind of is the lesser out of the four movies I think it went a little bit more slasher than psychological, and I felt like the other ones did a good job of kind of balancing that aspect, the psychological and the slasher aspect. And I thought everybody did great in it. I liked we continued straight from the second one. We had the cast from the second one come over to this one, like the diner owner, and the diner owner, that guy's great, because he was even pulling Norman. He was like, that guy's already paid his debt to society. Leave him alone.
Yeah, on the sheriff.
Yeah, the sheriff was kind of there with him, and he just kept telling that. Of course, it was a reporter there, digging up old stuff and trying to. I felt like brought some of the stuff out of Norman by asking all these questions, and it's a solid movie, but it's definitely the lesser out of the four.
I'll sort of bring up before what I found interesting about this film, because like you say, Brian, it literally takes place, I think, a month after the events of part 2, so it's pretty close together. And also this movie kind of goes back on the twist of the previous film, because we find out that Mrs. Spool, who we find out, well, she says she's Norman's mother, but the film kind of does another twist at the end of this one, where we find out, no, in fact, Mrs. Spool wasn't Norman's mother. She actually was Norman's mum's sister, who was wanting to have an affair with his dad, and claimed that Norman was his son. So it was kind of like, okay, so we got this twist, but then they kind of backtracked on that twist at the end of this third film.
In the books, do they ever really speak on the father?
I don't know.
I've not read them.
I haven't read them myself, but I know when Marcy and I were doing a podcast last year, we had a friend of ours, Aaron Dries, who's an author, and he was talking, because he's a big fan of this franchise too, and he's read the books, and the second book, Psycho 2, is actually an incredibly meta book where I think, wasn't it that, I'm trying to remember, that Norman finds out that they're making a movie based on his life, so he goes to Hollywood to kill people.
Like Jay and Silent Bob?
I was about to say, like Jay and Silent Bob.
Kind of, yeah. So I kind of want to read the...
Silent Bob, we're going to Hollywood.
Exactly. But Phil, what did you think of Psycho 3?
So I had actually never seen any of the sequels before I watched Bates Motel. And I was like, man, they really went into a deep dive on this stuff. And I was like, oh, well, after watching the sequels, they're actually a whole lot better than I expected them to be. And that's where they dug up most of the backstory, I feel like. I mean, I'm sure that they changed some things. It was more inspiration than a resource. But you're right. This is definitely not the best one of the group, but it was still a really solid movie, like a whole lot better than I expected it to be. Like, I sort of rolled my eyes when we were doing it this week. I was like, Psycho 3 and 4. All right, here we go. A bunch of other horror sequels that suck that nobody's ever seen before. And I was pleasantly surprised, man. This is a pretty solid movie, man. Anthony Perkins may be a Hitchcock fanboy, he puts a whole lot of effort into this part and does it for 4 movies. So
yeah, It is interesting how, like, we've mentioned that this one leans more into like the slasher territory, whereas the other ones are very much more like psychologically focused. So it's interesting that maybe that's what Anthony Perkins kind of leaned into more of the slasher element. So I think that says something, because he did direct the film. So it's interesting to kind of maybe get an insight into how he sees Norman, I guess, dealing with everything.
Yeah,
and
I'm not sure how he keeps getting out of prison, but
well,
and as far as the slasher aspect, I do kind of feel, even though the second one balances
it very well.
Yeah, but I felt like the kills were a little bit more tamer than the second one in this one. Because, I mean, we don't get Robert Loggia falling down the stairs onto a blade.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the kills have never really been the thing in this movie. I know it's really what's remembered, with the bathtub scene and all. But, I mean, the kills have never been really super gruesome. It's more about the psychological horror part of it, which this one doesn't hit at quite as hard on, but still does a pretty good job, I think. I was relatively impressed with it for being a third movie in the franchise.
Yeah, third movie in a franchise, like 20-something years later.
Yeah,
from the original.
Like Scream. All right, Marcy, what's your score on this one, 1 to 10?
Yeah, my score for this one would be a 7 Norman meltdowns out of 10. I think it's a very, very solid film. It might be the weakest of the four, but it doesn't mean it's not a very good and watchable film. I think it's got a really good cast, and I think it tells an interesting story, and it's always interesting to hang out with old Norman Bates at the Bates Motel.
Yeah, still better than most horror sequels.
Generally, yeah.
Bede, what do you think?
I give it a 7 out of 10 as well. Like it, I mean, of the sequels, it's definitely the weakest one, but it's still a pretty solid and enjoyable one. It's well made, performances are top notch, and of course, Anthony Perkins, once again just brings it as Norman, and based on his work here, I know he passed away a few years later, but it would have been great to kind of see more directing work from him, because I think he has a pretty good eye, just even based on his work for this one. Although my favorite thing about this movie, in terms of trivia, the woman who got killed on the toilet in the film, she would go on to direct Poison Ivy and The Rage, Carrie 2.
Oh, there you go.
Yes. And I just randomly found that out in the on the credits.
Oh, what a horrible way to die at a party where you're supposed to be the sober one.
Exactly. They were trying to make that the next shower scene is by being killed on the toilet.
Like the guy in Jurassic Park.
Exactly.
Brian, what'd you think?
I think 7 is a fair score. I like the direction. I liked Anthony Perkins' performance. Jeff Fahey. I like that Jeff Fahey got killed with his guitar after he kept saying his little "don't watch the guitar" quote or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I think it's a worthy entry in the franchise, and I can't wait to talk about the fourth one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go maybe 6.5. But I think it was definitely a very solid movie, and I've enjoyed it more than any of the movies that we've watched in the past couple of weeks. So, take that. No offense. All right, let's move on to Psycho 4 from 1990. Norman Bates recalls his childhood with his abusive mother while fearing his unborn child will inherit his split personality disorder. Spoilers.
A little bit.
Director Mick Garris, also known for the original TV miniseries of The Stand and Sleepwalkers. Classic. Writer is Joseph Stefano, also known for the original Psycho, as well as an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Of course, Lance had to throw it in there. Marcy, what about Psycho 4? Better than Psycho 3?
I do believe it is better than Psycho 3. I think this one, this one is absolutely a lot more psychological, and this is, I guess, I don't know. I feel like the show Bates Motel kind of took a lot of cues from this film because we really dive into that childhood of Norman. We get to see Mother, who's played by Olivia Hussey, and we get young Norman played by Henry Thomas. So it's very solid casting all rounded. I think they do great jobs in their roles. So we do see this childhood that he had, and in an effort to explain kind of why there is this relationship. And you don't necessarily need to know more than what we've known, but I think the way they handle it in this film makes it very interesting. And because it's like Norman is somehow living a normal life, he's married. As we find out during the course of the film, his wife is pregnant and he's very much against it because he it is a film that kind of brings up nature versus nurture. And he's kind of convinced that because he turned out the way he did, that any child will potentially turn out that way. So this is why he goes back through like the childhood and upbringing, but he's also called into a radio show. So that's like the framing device of the film, where for some reason this radio show has a guy on who apparently killed his mum. And so that's the matricide is the topic of conversation, and Norman calls in because he's having, I guess, this crisis after having found out that his wife is pregnant. So it's framed in such an interesting way. It builds up a lot of tension because as we're sort of live on this radio show and Norman's retelling the story, he's kind of, losing it a bit more as it goes on, as he, really, takes a handle of what the hell is going on. And I think it's a really interesting approach. It's very, very psychological, and it sort of, it does bring up that debate of nature versus nurture. And I think it kind of handles that really, really well.
Yeah. Bede, what'd you think?
I rambled.
Well, but I guess for me, this was my first time watching Psycho 4, so I'd never seen it until now. So I wasn't sure what to expect, other than I knew that it was a TV movie and Mick Garris directed it. And so I wasn't sure what to expect. But I got to say, I think out of all the sequels to the original Psycho, this might actually be my favorite one. I think it's a extremely well-directed film. I think Mick Garris did a really great job with how this film is made. But also Joseph Stefano, I think it's a pretty solid script from him. And also I do love the fact that for most of this film, it basically is a conversation between Norman and the radio host played by CCH Pounder. So I like the fact that it's for at least 2/3 of it, that's what this film does. And also getting flashbacks to Norman's childhood. And it goes at different ones. So it's either with his scenes with his mum, who I think Olivia Hussey does a really great job playing this very unhinged woman. But I think the way how the character's portrayed, I think in kind of hindsight, you would easily say that she's obviously suffering some kind of bipolar disorder. Like when you see her, how she acts towards Norman. And also the scenes after when she's already been murdered are like how Norman at first killed people. And I think Henry Thomas does a great job at sort of capturing that essence of what Anthony Perkins did with the character, especially back in the 1960 film.
Definitely.
And also the twist when it comes in, when you find out the reason why all this is happening is because Norman's wife is pregnant, and this is like the first for him because this isn't mother controlling him to kill people. It's out of from his own mindset. So that I found really interesting, and I was kind of just curious to see how all of this was going to happen. And also, the film it wraps up the whole franchise in a really nice way too. Like it brings the story full circle, and I think it's a pretty solid end to the franchise, at least with this one. And then
it actually, like with how it ends, it kind of has this really good. And it's strange to say, like, because it is a psycho film, but it's very symbolic of kind of burning certain aspects of your life away so you can move on, which I think is just fantastically done. But it's like we know, again, Norman's killed people, but the way he talks about it, and you're really sure that he has not, as Norman, been in control of that. So, like, as you said, when he says he will kill someone, that will be from him. Like, it's not something he actually wants to do. So I think it adds this more sympathetic layer as well. But I don't know, man. Mick Garris and boys wanting to fuck their mums. I don't get it.
Because, this would make it just... Yeah, and also like a weird double feature with Sleepwalkers, because that also deals with kind of the exact same thing too.
A little bit.
Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, I really enjoy this one. Again, Anthony Perkins is great. Olivia Hussey, I think, in the flashbacks, I just love her portrayal of Norma. I like the scenes, the funeral, where she's tickling him to get him to laugh, and then as soon as he laughs, she smacks him in the face and tells him to respect it. Like little stuff like that. Or when he's a little bit older, they're playfully rolling on the floor, and then she gives him that, "Do you have something in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?" kind of look. Get off me. And just, I like the whole story being told through these this radio conversation, which it's weird that this radio show actually has someone that's killed their mother and is also not only killed their mother and done time for it, but is living with his mother's father. Is that how I remember it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we get no explanation on how Norman's out again. He's just free again and
That's
married.
What I was like, how many people has this motherfucker killed? Have we not learned our lesson at this point?
All I know is if the diner owner was here, he'd be yelling at us that he's paid his due again. So leave him alone.
Paid his dues, leave him alone.
I don't know that that's true.
Leave Norman alone.
I do like they connected it that he went back to the hospital, and that's where he met his wife. She was a counselor or therapist, psychologist, so one of those things. And that's how they met. So I like they connected it, but it's just a little odd that he got out again. And I also like the twist of her being pregnant, because I kind of see it from his angle. I mean, killing his wife is bad, but I understand where his mindset is. He doesn't want this disease to continue in his child and start killing again. And this one kind of it went back to more psychological than the third one.
Yeah.
So I liked all that, and it's good to see CCH Pounder in here. I totally forgot she was the radio host.
Still looks exactly the same.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
And, I thought it was a good closing to the franchise. I liked the burning down the house and just kind of getting rid of everything, all the bad juju that was following him around, and I even liked that little closing scene of the chair rocking. Thought it was just a nice closure to the franchise. And then we got the remake that came out. So
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I don't know if that counts. I mean, especially since it was basically shot for shot, just without the motion.
Who was Norman? Vince Vaughn was Norman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I want to like more than I do. No, this one is it's Making a Murderer. I think it's the most interesting side of it, you know? Like if you watch Psycho, the most glaring question is, why did he end up this way? And so this sort of delves into that, which is exactly what Bates Motel does. And I think that they straight up pulled off of this movie and made a series out of it. And
Definitely.
I think both of them were a really great job and probably more interesting than any of the sequels before it. I think I like Psycho 4 better than Psycho 2 personally. And this is the first time that I've watched it. It was I think it's on paper, the radio show thing doesn't sound like it's going to be awesome, but the way that they do it really pulls it off. And they have all these little flashbacks of him when he was a kid, and they had great actors great cast through the whole movie. And
John Landis is one of the radio show producers.
Yeah.
Just pops up in there.
And I really liked this movie, man. It kept me enthralled through the whole thing, you know, and it kept me interested, and I like what they did with it. It was pretty cool. I still don't know why he's not, you know, in jail. Like, I get everybody has the reasons. Monsters are made, not born. But
yeah, I kind of wish they gave some sort of. I mean, at the end of 3, he's riding in the back of the police car, holding the severed hand of who we found out is his aunt, not his mom, but he's holding it, stroking the hand.
Yeah.
And then we get part 4, and he's out, married, and looks to be a pretty nice home. And
I know he's killed like 12 people, but he'll at this time be okay.
He's been properly rehabilitated this time.
Yeah. Well, that is true, but that being said, I find it interesting that he like a counselor is married to him, wants to marry Norman after killing so many people.
And then have his baby.
Exactly.
Who's her counselor?
This seems like a bad idea. Like Harley Quinn.
Exactly. Cool. That is a good point.
So Batman the Animated Series completely ripped off Psycho 4.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
All right, Marcy, what's your score on this one?
This one I give 8. It's Norman's birthday out of 10. It's a fantastic sequel. It's a fantastic addition to the Psycho franchise, and definitely a very underrated film. I think there's quite a lot of good stuff in there. It's very watchable. It's very captivating, and I think everybody did a really great job with it.
Yeah, covered a lot of ground on this one. Bede, what'd you think?
I'm actually going to give this a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it that much as a sequel, and I think it probably is my favorite of the sequels, because I think it does a good job of continuing the psychological elements while diving more into Norman's backstory, and the way how it's all set up from a writing standpoint, I thought was actually pretty clever and really interesting. And it also does offer some good twists and turns in there as well. Although I got to say, I feel sorry for poor Norman, is that he has to cook his own birthday dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she was busy at work, damn it.
Yeah, but they were going to eat at least about 10:30 at night. Like, that's just not on.
Well, maybe all the restaurants were closed for ordering takeout.
Well, that is true. And he had to, and his wife wanted him to go get his own birthday cake.
And he's like, I shouldn't be picking up my own birthday cake.
Who's got strychnine in the cabinet? Is that a thing?
Well, maybe his neighbor had something nice for him. She never came back.
Well, that is true. That is true. But yeah, I think it's a great sequel, and it probably, I would even say, even more underrated than the second one.
Yeah.
Oh, it's massively underrated.
Yeah, no, I had never heard anybody say, "Hey, you really got to watch these Psycho sequels." They're really good.
Except for me, but no one listens to me.
Yeah. Brian, what'd you think?
Yeah, this for me is an easy 8. It's another great entry in the franchise, a great closing to the franchise. I loved Anthony Perkins in it. Olivia Hussey was great in it, and
beautiful.
Yes, definitely. Just the little small stuff too. Even his memory of her having beautiful hair, and then her being in the casket in the strychnine was just actually making her hair fall out, and just all the little stuff like that. And love to see CCH Pounder in there. Still have my questions about how he got out and little stuff like that, but it doesn't hurt the movie for me. I still like the second one the best out of the 3 sequels, but this one is right there close with the second one for me.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, this one was even less on the kills, since we kind of, as far as violence, it kind of went downhill since the second one, and it didn't bother me at all. The story had me in from the beginning, so I think hats off to the director for that.
Well, and you still had a lot of kills. They were just kills from the past.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah. And that poor girl who just wanted to bag Norman.
I know, right?
But nobody told her to run to the house. He said go into the parlor. I'll just be right back. I gotta unclog this shitty toilet.
I know she kept escalating that. It's like, as you're watching it, you're like, girl, don't do this. Don't do this. Girl, get out of there. You're making it worse for Norman.
I almost forgot how the movie went, because it almost kind of seemed like she was playing with him, like she wasn't there for him. And then when she went in the house and took her top off, I'm like, okay, I see where this is going.
Yeah. Like she made a bet with somebody or something.
Yeah, almost like I was like, am I remembering it right, or like is the bully about to jump out and everybody laugh at Norman or something, or? But once they got into the house, I was like, okay, I'm remembering this correctly.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 8.5. I think it was a really, really solid movie, man. It's not quite as good as Bates Motel, but considering it came out in 1990 and it's just a 2-hour movie, it's pretty solid, dude. This is a great horror franchise that never gets talked about.
Absolutely true.
I mean, it doesn't have the kills that a Friday the 13th or something has, but I think they're pound for pound better movies.
I think the sequels are better than they have any right to be, considering like, who would have thought you could make a good Psycho sequel as a film?
Yeah, I totally expected them to suck. All right. Bede, you want to play us out?
Indeed. So, hold on, I just got to get the notes because I just lost them for a second.
Again?
Yes, indeed. Yes, my first and only time I'll be hosting.
All right, we need to land some impersonation again.
All right. Well, guys, it's been great. Always talking to. It's a good time to. Sorry, just reading what last part. Always a good time when we podcast together. And coming up on the Super Network, we have Marcy. What do we have coming up on the Super Network?
Oh, geez, what do we have coming up on the Super Network? We have the To Be Tuesdays podcast, where we watched. What did we watch, Pete? I can't remember.
We watched Terrifier 2 for the latest episode of the show.
I already forget that. Yes, Terrifier 2 will be our most recent episode. What an experience that was. And also coming up, the Super Podcast, we will be having a discussion on The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires and Ricky O, the story of Ricky for our movie swap episode. Yes. So keep an eye out for those podcasts. And for me, hopefully After Dark with Super Marcy, an adults only podcast, will be back very soon with an epic discussion on Lolita.
Nice. I think at some point, maybe like when it's one of our turns, Marcy, for the commentary for your guys' show, maybe one of us will have to pick Ricky O as a commentary.
Oh, hell yeah, let's go.
Yes.
For me personally, you can find me at my Twitter page at twitter.com/BedeJamine or my Letterboxd account at letterboxd.com/BedeJamine. And of course, you can find all my work over at supermarcy.com. And also, you can find my solo podcast, Bede vs. the Living Dead, on all podcast streaming services everywhere. The latest episode that's out at the moment is on the anthology book Nights of the Living Dead, an anthology, which I did with Australian horror authors Aaron Dries and Zachary Ashford. So that's out at the moment. And you can also follow the official Twitter account of that over at twitter.com/BedeVSTLD. So as always, we want to thank everyone for listening to another episode of The Horror Returns, which has been taken over by the Super Network.
Yes, we have. And please check out all our stuff because we rule.
Exactly. And if Lance was here, he would say, we would love to hear the feedback and ideas. You can always reach us at thehorrorreturns@gmail.com. And you can find us at www.thehorrorreturns.com and follow all of our social media links from there, as well as hear our latest episode of the show. Please consider becoming a Patreon patron. Even just as $1 a month helps so much. Next week, you got... Yes.
Do it.
Yes. We got to do Ricky O. I think that's a given. But next week for you guys, once Lance comes back, you guys are heading off to the theater once more to check out the latest film, The Boogeyman, and as well as doing a double feature of that with the 1980s film, The Boogeyman. So, until the horror returns again, Brian.
Good night.
Right. Ready for the Boogerman.
Boogeyman.